Jesus here is asking us a question. What is it worth? What is the kingdom of heaven worth to you? What would you do to attain it? What lengths would you go to in order to enter it? What's it worth to you? Every Christian seems to talk about the necessity of entering heaven, right? We all want to come to church and we want to say the sinner's prayer and be forgiven and redeemed and saved so we can one day, what? Enter the kingdom of heaven, or one day go to heaven, right? How Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to heaven but through Jesus, but through him, right? Of course, it's not actually what Jesus said. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father but through me. But we often use Father and heaven synonymously. After all, where's the Father, right? Right? How do you get to the Father? How do you get to heaven? But have we stopped? Have we taken a moment to pause and to think about what it means to enter heaven? We all want to go to heaven, but have we stopped and really considered what going to heaven means, or what entering heaven is all about? Jesus uses some really, really good illustrations here. Thank God we're not in the Gospel of Mark, by the way, because he uses his parables to confuse people in the Gospel of Mark. In the Gospel of Matthew, he uses them so people will understand. So we're in the right Gospel tonight. We don't need to be confused. But he uses some really, really good parables, good illustrations to show us what entering heaven is like, what entering heaven is all about. He says it's like a hidden treasure found by a man who then sells everything to buy the field it's hidden in. Huh? Why not just take the treasure and run, right? No, he sells everything and buys the field to own the field that the treasure is in. Jesus says, it's like a merchant who's looking for the best of pearls. I mean, who doesn't want the best of pearls? Pearls are rare enough, but to have the best of them, that's awesome. And this person, when he finds it, sells everything to own it. And then he says, it's like a fishing net that catches tons of fish. Wait a second. We went from a buried treasure, okay, pirates, right? Buried treasure to a pearl, that's something in oysters. Now we've got fish. What's up with this, right? Pirates, oysters, fish. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But he says it's like a fishing net catching tons and tons of fish. And the fishermen gather up the fishing net. And they go through it and sort through it, and they discard the good fish, or they keep the good fish and discard the bad fish. You know, it's kind of like they discard they keep the bass and the trout, you know, the largemouth bass and the trout and all the trophy fish, but they discard the bony fish, like the sunfish, you know, the sunnies. You throw those things away. It's not even worth filleting them and trying to pick the meat off the bones, right? So we just throw those away. What's the one thing that each of these illustrations have in common? Clearly not pirates, oysters, and fish. But what's the one thing that each of these illustrations have in common? Their worth. Absolutely. The worth. They're things of worth. Fish is something of worth. When you're hungry, you know, you don't want the meager, bony fish. You want the fish with meat on it. You want the trophy fish, a fish that's going to feed you and your family. You don't want the sunny fish, you know. You throw those back, let them swim and have a good day. We want the bass. We want the trout. We want the catfish. We want the stuff that we can eat and sink our teeth into. Pearls are worth everything. You find a pearl, you're in good shape. You know, you find a ton of pearls, you're in even better shape. A hidden treasure, who doesn't want hidden treasure? Right? I would love to dig one day, you know, just dig a hole just for the sake of it, maybe bury some trash, and then all of a sudden there's like some buried treasure right there. And just to tell you, back in that time period, they didn't have banks, you know, where they could go and put things into a safety deposit box, or put things, you know, they would take treasure or money that they had or wealth that they had accumulated, you know, take 15 steps from a tree, you know, bury it in the ground, so that way when they came back, they would hopefully be able to find the place where they buried it, and be fairly confident that no one was going to find it because it's under the earth somewhere. You know, people walk over and not even realize it's there. Of course, you have to remember what direction from the tree. I mean, you could be spending a long time digging for that treasure, but you know it's there. So these are things of profound worth. The one thing that is in common is that Jesus is saying that heaven is something valuable, something beyond valuable. It's something that you cannot even put a value on. It's so valuable that you would sell everything to get it. You'd give everything away to get it. Now, which one of us would sell everything to get heaven? I'm just trying to think of me parting with my cars, you know, like I really don't want to walk from place to place. Which one of us would sell everything we have, our very lives, to get heaven? It's something you can't even put a value on, Jesus says. It's something that when you discover it will utterly blow you away. But it will only blow you away if you are in line with it. It's one of those things that you will either notice its worth right away and give up everything to have it, or you'll just completely pass it by like a stranger walking over buried treasure and not realizing it's there. It will only blow you away if you are not just bones and skin with little substance, to keep using the fish analogy, right? You know? It will only blow you away if you're somebody who recognizes the value of heaven. For those of substance, for those seeking to be blown away, for those seeking to be transformed, for those looking for God's way instead of their own way, the kingdom of heaven is invaluable. You just cannot put a price on it. And for those people, for such people, you will stop at nothing to attain the kingdom of heaven. But what is this kingdom of heaven? I mean, that's great that we talked about how invaluable it is. That's great that we've talked about how it'll blow you away. What is this kingdom of heaven? I mean, is it like some place far off in another universe, far, far away, as in Star Wars, you know, like flying on puffy clouds with St. Peter's Gate and an angel playing harps, with bad jokes told by the beloved apostle? I mean, is that what heaven is? Did anybody pick up on its description in tonight's text? Because believe it or not, Jesus actually described the kingdom of heaven for us. The kingdom of heaven is like a small mustard seed, that when planted, it grows into a giant tree. Now, I want to pause there, because for any of you who know what a mustard seed is, yeah, it's tiny. We all know that a mustard seed is tiny. You don't even have to have seen a mustard seed to know it's tiny, because Jesus says it's the smallest of seeds. But a mustard seed is tiny, but when it grows, it's like dandelion. You know, it just grows and takes over. It's like mint. You know, you plant mint in a section of your garden to have a section of mint and a section of rhubarb and a section of whatever, and the mint just takes everything over and it becomes a mint garden. Period. Right? That's what mustard seed is. You plant it and it grows into this huge, like shrub-like weed bush that you can't get rid of no matter what you do. pour acid on it. It's like the cockroach. No matter what you do, an atomic bomb won't get rid of your mustard plant, right? But everything else will fade away. This is what the mustard seed is. It's just unruly. But Jesus has it growing from a seed into a giant tree. What's up with that? And Jesus says that this tree, its branches provide shade. And the birds of the air fly and sit and nest in its branches and are shaded and protected from the scorching heat. He says it's like yeast, that when even a little is added to dough, it permeates everything. Ever try to make unleavened bread? Ever? Word of advice, don't sprinkle even a tiny bit of yeast into it. It will not be unleavened anymore. Yeast changes the mixture forever. This is what Jesus is saying the kingdom of heaven is. The kingdom of heaven transforms us, permeates us, causes us to rise, resurrection, right? The kingdom of heaven protects us from the scorching heat and gives us a place to nest and to build our home. The kingdom of heaven is God's reign on earth. Jesus isn't talking about puffy clouds and gates and faraway places. He's using very real analogies on this earth to describe the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is God's reign on earth. It's a shelter for the homeless. It's food for the hungry. It is clothing for the naked. It is hope for the hopeless. It is freedom for the imprisoned, the oppressed, the addicted, and anyone bound against their will for any reason. It is love and acceptance for the neglected, the abandoned, and the rejected. The kingdom of heaven is open to all. After all, is that tree have a wall surrounding it that the birds can't get in? Or only select birds can get in? No, it's a tree that all the birds of the air can nest in its branches. The kingdom of heaven is open to all. And we are being called to enter it, to join it, to bring it to others. But I ask you again, what's it worth to you? Is it worth the work? Is it worth the time and the effort? Is it worth the risk and the sacrifice? What's it worth to you? Are you willing to trade everything? Heart and soul, blood and sweat, everything. Are you willing to trade everything for it? How you live your life and how your life transforms into the life God is calling you to live will be the answer to that question. Amen. Gracious God, thank you for this message, for this illustration of your kingdom, which is already been ushered into this world. Your kingdom, which started with your Son and has pushed forward ever since. Lord, there have been many, many people who have followed you and have borne your kingdom within them and have brought it out into the world. Lord, you are calling us to join in the endless march. You have called us to be your people, to be your representatives of your kingdom. And that kingdom is a kingdom, a world that embraces each other instead of rejects each other, a world that loves each other instead of hates each other, a world that that drops all superficialities and embraces the truth that we, in essence, no matter who we are, no matter what we are, no matter how we are, no matter what we believe or don't believe, no matter what we say or do, all of us, throughout all of creation, are your children. Open our eyes and our hearts to see the reality of that kingdom in the world.